Out of the 11 seasons that Julius Erving played in the NBA, there is one that stands out from the rest. That's his iconic 1980/81 MVP season. He played at such a high level that he was the first non-center to win the MVP in 17 years. What else was he able to accomplish? What was being said about him? What controversy has surrounded this season? Let's go back to memory lane to discuss a season that had some incredible ups and some heartbreaking downs. First, we must clarify something. When we think of someone's peak, we usually picture someone who is in their athletic prime. Usually, they're around their mid to late 20s. There are very few players that were as athletically gifted as the Doctor was. He pulled out some incredible feats in his younger years. However, his greatest individual season came when he was in his 30s. That almost doesn't sound right for this player. I can assure you that this is a testament to his greatness. Think about this for a second. If you want to know how great a player is, try to notice how they transition their game when they get into their 30s. This is when these players don't have the same athletic advantage over their competitors. They have to be more skillful and use their knowledge of the game to continue playing at a high level. That becomes even more noticeable when it happens to players like Dr. J. His game was still as thrilling as ever, but he was finding other ways to be impactful. To his credit, he was never stubborn about the fact that he couldn't do the same thing as consistently, and he adjusted his game accordingly. For example, he said this during the season about himself and his team. Quote, "You're a lot slower, but you're a lot smarter. You're getting the same result because you're getting by the guy guarding you, but you're not kissing him goodbye when you go by. We're not spectacular anymore, but we are workmanlike." End of quote. That may have been the case, but the city of Philadelphia had a lot to cheer about. They won 62 games. They were tied with the best record in the league. This team's biggest strength was their defense. They finished with the league's best opponent's points per game, the best opponent's field goal percentage, and the second best defensive rating. How much did Julius contribute to this team's dominance? Let's check out the numbers. This is what he averaged for the season. He finished 7th in both points and steals per game. He was also the only player to finish the top 14 in both steals and blocks per game. Here are some of the advanced metrics that he posted. Those are all career highs except for PER. In fact, he led the league in win shares per 48 minutes, value over replacement player rating, and box plus minus. For the defensive metrics, he finished with the second highest defensive win shares and the fourth highest defensive rating. He doesn't get the credit he deserves for this, but he was a valuable defensive asset. For example, there were 4 games where he blocked over 5 shots. There were also 2 games in which he had 7 steals. Speaking of notable performances, his best surely came against the Boston Celtics. He had 45 points on 50% shooting, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 blocks, and 3 steals. The Doctor did a great job of carrying the scoring load for his team. He didn't have many high-scoring games like these, but he wasn't interested in dominating the ball. He scored when he had to, and he was extremely efficient. This was helpful for a team that didn't have anyone else that averaged over 15 points per game. After such a strong year, he became the last non-center to win the MVP award since Oscar Robertson in 1964. This wasn't given to him as a token or a lifetime achievement award. He had a strong case for being the best player in the world. For example, the coach for the Atlanta Hawks said this about him after the league awards were announced. Quote, "He was a Dr. J of old, the one I saw and coached in the old ABA. He was a lot wiser, sometimes less flamboyant, but awesome again." End of quote. That indeed he was. He was awesome to watch, and his team was winning. The 76ers had real expectations of winning the title. Their title hopes became even more real once the Houston Rockets shocked the world by defeating the Lakers in the first round. They knew that all they had to do was win their conference. That wasn't going to be easy. Their second round matchup came against the Milwaukee Bucks. This was a team that won 60 games. They were loaded with talent and they played extremely well together. There wasn't much that separated these two teams. All eyes were on two of the best forwards going head to head, Julius Erving and Marcus Johnson. Both had their moments as they each averaged 24.7 points per game. As expected, the series went to 7 games, and the final game was a classic. There were 19 lead changes and 11 ties. Milwaukee also came back from a 16-point deficit. Marcus had a great performance. He scored 36 points on 64% shooting, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 blocks. The Doctor wasn't as efficient. He had 28 points on 42% shooting, along with 7 rebounds. His biggest impact came on defense. He swatted 6 shots away. Considering that the Sixers only won by 1 point, his defense was a big reason why they escaped with a win. It was an intense battle, but it was nothing compared to the following series. The 1981 Eastern Conference Finals between the Celtics and the Sixers are considered by many as the most entertaining playoff series ever. It's exactly what playoff basketball is all about. There was a total of 5 games where it was decided by 2 points or less. These two teams were as evenly matched as you can get. If we're going to be fair and honest, the Sixers did not do a good job of closing out games once they took a 3-1 series lead. In Game 5, they were up by 6 points with less than 2 minutes left. In Game 6, they had a 17-point lead in the first half. In Game 7, they had a 7-point lead at the halfway mark of the fourth quarter. They just couldn't hang on. On top of that, the Doctor received some criticism for his performance, especially after comparing what his rival did. If we look at the head-to-head matchup between Larry Bird and Dr. J, we can see that Bird outplayed the MVP. For many people, this organically settled the debate on who was truly deserving of winning that award. They believe Larry Bird was snubbed for winning his first MVP. He came through in the clutch, while Julius couldn't close it out. But let's not forget that they were one stop or one play away from reaching the finals and being in a prime position to win the title. They would have been heavily favored to beat the Houston Rockets, and I believe they would have won that series. But they lost out to a player and a team that was ready to dominate the league. There's no shame in that, and it shouldn't take away from a season that should be held in high regard. But what about you all? What do you remember the most from this season? Do you think Dr. J deserved to win the MVP? And what would have happened if they had beaten the Celtics in the conference finals? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.